And turn off a light.
Sorry?
You should be able to see us there when they can actually see us as well. In theory. In theory.
I see us!
Hello!
There's lag.
Can you hear us, guys? Okay. What? Excellent. I think it's actually normal to have a bit of lag.
I think so too, but it's very disturbing to be doing things and then seeing myself on one computer doing them slightly slower, and on a third computer doing them even slower. I feel like I'm looking back in time. It's very disturbing. Fun, but... Oh, Jesus, there I go. Waving my arms. Yes, there's a cat!
There are actually 3 of them.
There are 3. You may spot several of them. Yeah, probably there is Ebb and Storm. I haven't done this before. Seems like there is an echo. Echo.
Do they get echo? That's not good if they get echo. Wait, we can fix that. I hope.
Dimitri is on the case.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I hear tiny feet. Okay. Harry on. The echo is yours. Congratulations, it's your own.
What?
Oh, there we go. Well done.
Is it fixed?
Yeah, he fixed it.
Okay, good.
Extra tabs, extra fun.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, so how many are we actually right here now? Should wait for a bit more longer, I guess.
It's just 8. We might kick off at 8:02.
Yeah, something like that.
Just to give people time to find their seats. Grab their beer. These things.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we're not starting, but just to let you know, guys, the whole idea is to, first of all, say hi and get to know you a bit better, and then actually talk about a bit more the features of World Anvil. The way we're gonna do this is by creating a new world and going through essentially the process of creating new articles, creating categories, organizing them, and everything you can actually do in World Anvil. If at any point any of you need some more information, just write on the chat, and you know, Janet will actually be
here.
taking care of that. Yes.
Writing nonsense.
Well, sort of.
Yay! Yes, Kit Battlebeard, you are right! Yay is the answer!
If you haven't noticed already, we are both extremely terrified because this is the first time we're doing this, actually. So I will apologize for any dribbling that might occur, which probably will.
Are you going to dribble? Was that a promise? You heard it here first, guys. There may be dribbling.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my love. Very true. Michael is right.
Yes. If in doubt. Alright, it's 8:02. Let's do this.
Right. Okay then. Thank you very much for being here. And for all of you who doesn't know what World Anvil is, I think there might be some people actually that don't know, or they haven't joined just yet. Actually, World Anvil is a tool that allows you to build your worlds and essentially design them the way you need and present them to your friends, or just decide to actually keep them if you're a writer or essentially an author of any sorts in private, and develop your world as you develop your books or anything like that. Right?
Yeah, having a world Bible.
Yes, that's a technical term.
That's what we need.
Exactly. introductions. I'm Dimitris. It's the first time you would probably see me online with my face and everything. And I'm the developer behind World Anvil. I've been developing World Anvil since June. I think the idea was something I had for quite a long time. Janet can actually tell you how many times I actually started this project and finished it early. By finished it, I mean just scrapped it because I wasn't feeling very confident or my will was not very strong. But I think
it was a really big mountain to climb, basically.
Yes.
Is what he's saying. It was really hard.
It was indeed.
It took a lot of pushing from behind.
Yeah. But this June, actually, I kind of was pretty sure that I needed to do it and I wanted to do it. And Janet pushed me because she was writing actually her novel as well. So I had a good reason, to want to do it. So I started building it in June and we launched about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so far we're doing very well. And yeah, that's pretty much from my side. What about you?
What about me? So I'm a writer, but I've never finished anything. Part of the reason I've never finished anything is because my world building is super chaotic. So, like, I'll build a bit here, I'll build a bit there, I'll build a bit somewhere else, and then I'll do a draft of my plot, having not got a complete world, get halfway through my plot, and then have a massive problem. So, for me, having something where I could really put my world together, and Dimitri was always like, oh, you've got to organise things. Organisation is not my forte. I'm a musician by profession, so I'm a little bit chaotic. So, having something where you can really put things together is kind of amazing, and something where you can sort of go back and refer to things. And so when Dimitri started saying, oh, I might do something for world building, I was like, yes, and book Bibles, yes, we need this. And I've been trying to advise him through the process from a writer's point of view about, what kind of things we need and how we do stuff. Yes, a bard! An opera singing bard. That's me. So I've been more from that side, and Dimmy has been more from the campaign setting side. And
yeah, they're all playing part actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we're only two, so having you guys as beta has just been amazing.
Yes.
And having you to be like, oh, it would be great if we could like co-author and stuff, which is one of the suggestions we got. But we'll get into that later.
Yes, that's very true. Actually, having said that, I have to say that for all the beta testers that are actually right now here, I'm grateful more than anything else in the world, because we've managed to get our errors on the website from something like 50 bugs a day. I mean, okay, maybe not 50 bugs a day, but down to less than 1 bug a day, which is great, which means actually the system is now stable and we are essentially moving ahead with new features. On the other side, we would like to thank very much from the bottom of our hearts our patrons, which they were amazing. I mean, I cannot even imagine or believe what is actually happening. Every morning I wake up and I see another patron or anything like that, then Janet is like bored with me saying, I'm like, we have another patron! And Janet is like, not again, kind of thing. But yeah, you're amazing, guys. Thank you so much. It really means the world to us. When we are saying that, we don't just say it, we really mean it. It's amazing. It's like having you supporting us is such a great thing, and makes me and makes Janet actually want to continue and push forward and do more and more for you. Right. So, let's get world building, I guess. Is there any questions, guys, you might have about us before we start going actually with that? And by the way, also in the process, if you need anything, just ask. Anything?
Any questions, guys? I'm at the keys. All right, well, they'll come in.
Then. Yes, of course. So, let's go. Hopefully this will work. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to create a new world, and then I will just go through the features and how you can actually use them. I know that many of you were not, it's a bit hard to discover all the features sometimes, and I wanted to actually highlight some of them which I believe they are very strong and they're not very well presented, and that was actually, the basic reason behind this tutorial. So let's get started. Let's start by creating something called Project World. Why not? A world dedicated to the best bard ever. There
missing a T.
Do I?
After the A. Not parachute. After the A. That's the A, yeah. There we go.
We'll make it a public world. Great. So, once you created your world, this is the page that you mostly land to, and this is actually the world dashboard page. The first thing you see is an intimidating list of possible articles you can create. And I understand that many said that, sometimes it's actually very scary to actually see this list, but the truth of the matter is that we are trying still to find a way to actually make it better and easier for people to go into the website and, start building. What I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go through the articles, talk about a little bit about what each of them is and how it was intended to be used, and then I can actually go and build some articles, right?
Let's do it.
So, let's start with the person. Person is essentially the most straightforward, I guess, from all of them. The whole idea of creating a person is creating a character. That can be a character for your book, can be a famous non-player character of your world, can be a hero, can be an ancient hero, or even a god. So let's start by creating somebody we all know and love.
Silver Absol, by the way, says the dashboard makes, he really likes it and it makes everything really easy to access.
That's good to know. That's actually really nice to know.
Thanks, Silver Absol.
Right. So, explanation, the title of the page essentially is there as a title. Most of you have seen it already and how it works. The excerpt is essentially a very small piece of information that you can actually put in order to make it easier for people who check the articles from your world page to understand more or less what is happening with them. So we can say Rincewind.
It's a wizard with 2 Z's. Yeah, there we go.
Good. And let's write a bit of a story for Rincewind. Here we are. Right. The next part we can actually do with a character is to put some information about their names. So actually, if I remember correctly, Rincewind has like a huge amount of titles, right? Let's use one of them.
The egregious professor of cruel and unusual geography.
Indeed.
I think I had one of those at my school.
You don't have to feel all of them, but actually that's something that goes throughout the whole of the World Anvil. You don't have to feel everything, guys. The idea behind World Anvil, and it's a very important one, is that it's here to motivate you and make you think of stuff. It doesn't mean that you have to write everything. It means that they are there. So, if for example, you never thought of, okay, maybe my character has hobbies and, I've never thought about that, or a pet, that's essentially the idea behind it.
Yeah, it's designed to provoke creativity. I mean, in the same way that we have what we call a vignette at the top of a lot of the forms. And that's just to start you writing. Because some writers are plotters, and they'll start with very sort of specific hardcore information. And some writers are discovery writers, or some people call them pantsers, because they fly by the seat of their pants. And what helps them create is writing. So they create through the writing. They'll start with a vignette and they'll be like, so there's this guy and he's called this and he does this and you get this feeling from him because, and you see him walking across a cliff in a windswept environment. And from that's what inspires the writer. So, we wanted to try and make sure that there was facility for, pantsers and discovery writers and plotters and everything in between. But you don't have to fill in everything. The idea is just that we ask lots and lots of questions, and some of them will spark something in your head, and some of them are like body features. It doesn't have any body features. Doesn't matter. It's not important. So just ignore it. Just go on to something that is. Go on to something that provokes you.
Great. Thank you. So, let's start with actually one of the most important features for me on World Anvil, which is the ability to actually reference articles you haven't written just yet. It's a conundrum when you actually create articles that you want to interlink, that sometimes essentially you want to link an article, but essentially the process would have been to create an article, then create another article, then go back to the initial article and link it. And that's actually quite difficult and quite cumbersome as an application. So what you can do is that you can actually go and say that the most famous accessory that Rincewind had with him is the luggage. And let's put it as an item.
It's a character.
It's a character.
It's a character.
Yes. So essentially, what you do?
Does that need an underscore?
No, it doesn't. Actually, you can write whatever you want, and the system will actually realize by itself. So essentially, the the name of the item you want, or the article you want to write, and then essentially a kind of like a definition of what the article is. If you want to know all the definitions that are available, you can go to the BB code reference, and at the very bottom we actually have all the articles here. So article, ethnicity, item, and you can use the thing into the into the brackets. So let's leave that to that. Let's leave.
I'm going to leave Rincewind for now.
Let's
create the article.
Yeah, let's create the article.
So scroll to the bottom.
So before we actually finish with the scrolling to the bottom part, let's talk about a bit the extras here. So the article is featured, means that you're gonna see it in the homepage of your world, and that will be on the top of all the list of articles you have. The article is a draft. It will mean essentially that nobody else will be able to see it apart from you at this stage. And many people actually have noticed that prefer to do that, and before they actually have something that is presentable. Allow comments. For me, I think it's a very nice feature because it will allow you to get feedback from people and to essentially become better writers as you do so. And the article is still work in progress, which we have it as ticked. Is essentially another indicator that the article is not finished. You're still working on it. If your updates is a minor one, we actually give them the ability not to publish it on the streams. The streams is essentially in the homepage, if you've seen it before, the ability to see what is happening on with the community and the people that you follow. So let's create this person. Let's see how it looks.
Preview.
Exactly. So you actually see here the title of Rincewind, the full name, a bit of description we have here, the visual description, and of course the link to the luggage. Now, everybody else who goes into this article actually wouldn't see this as a link because the article doesn't exist. They will see it just actually as a bold file, word. For us as the authors of the world, by clicking on this, we actually go to a page that will allow us to create the luggage, the actual essentially article.
Beast himself.
Indeed. So let's write a bit about the luggage. Right. So at this point, for example, we could actually simply link to an article we already created before. So let's say that we wanted to essentially make a mention that this luggage is owned by Rincewind. So at this point, we can say that the luggage is owned, not really, by
Rince.
It's Rincewind, right?
Not doing the thing.
No, it's not.
Is it because the article isn't marked as completed?
Actually, maybe because it's a draft.
That's what, yeah.
Yes.
Finish the article.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see actually why this happened. Right. Here we
Yeah!
are. Yes.
It did the thing!
Yes. I'm sorry. So yeah, and that way essentially it means that for all articles that are not draft, you can actually link them just like that, and it will be a much faster process because you don't have to write a whole like it's an item, it's a person, or whatever this is. But we do have actually some really nice place you can actually do create here. So for example, we can go here and we can consider sapient perewood as a species.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And we can also
Agitian Empire.
exactly.
Agitian Empire.
We can actually say that the Agatian Empire is
A location.
it's not a location, it's an organization actually.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah. It's many much locations.
So let's see how this looks now. Save the changes. So Rincewind right now is actually a link. So if you click on Rincewind article, you can actually go to Rincewind article. If we go back to the luggage, we have actually 2 more articles, the Sapient Perewood and the Agatian Empire, which are actually already there for you to continue writing. So let's go see actually species. Species gives you the ability to essentially create a new species. You can define it as an intelligent and sentient species. The difference between that is that if you actually define something as a sentient species, then whatever you write in the sentient only part of the article will also be displayed at the preview. If you don't do that, actually, you can still write those, but they won't actually display in the preview. Something we can actually add to the Agatian Empire, to the Sapient Perewood, actually is a tag. So let's say that, for example, it's related to, let's say it's a secret because it's kind of a secret empire, and let's say also that is actually part of the far, far away, right?
Yeah.
So this will be used later, and we can explain how it works. The other thing we can actually do on this article is also play out with the category, which we don't have one. So let's create another category first, and we can come back to that. Let's save the article. Let's allow comments. Great. Now, categories. The categories actually is quite an important feature of the website, and we are planning actually to make it even more important in the months to come. The reason behind the category is that because just having a list of articles is great, but it will be really hard for you to find out your own articles and of course for people to understand them. We wanted to create the category so they can create a table of contents for your world. In the weeks to come, in fact, we will be launching a new feature that will be called books. Books will be some sort of a super category that will allow you to essentially break down the table of contents of your world in smaller, more manageable pieces with their own cover, and like that would be an image essentially or something like that. And you will also be able to have, for example, timelines specific to those, let's say, categories essentially. So let's create a new category, and let's call it, for example, to begin with, the lands of Pratchett Land. It doesn't have a parent category. Something that somebody asked was actually what's the position and weight. Right now this feature is actually quite in a very embryonic state. Essentially the higher number you set in this, it's a number, so you can actually go from minus 5,000 to plus 5,000. The higher it is, the higher it will actually display. Let's say that there's actually a very important articles category, so I want to display quite high. And let's create a category. And since we are here, let's create some other categories. Let's create another category called, for example, the people of Pratchett Land. Keep on doing that. Pratchett Land. Great. And we're going to put it necessarily at height 500 because we want it to be a bit lower than the previous one.
We got a question at some point.
Oh, what's the question?
So we got a question from a Harryon, who says, I have a question about articles. Are the article types static? For example, I'd like to have a new magic article template. Would it be something I can create alone, or do you need to introduce it as development work?
So, at this point, they are quite static. They are quite static because we wanted to essentially have templates that will inspire people and wanted to have templates that will actually define some parameters on the system. There is an idea in the future to actually be able to create your own templates. To be fair, it's not very close to completion or even close to essentially being started. We have like hundreds of features to do before that. But the truth of the matter is that if there is something that is really missing from the system and you think it should be there, as always, just come to Discord, talk to the features channel. We'll be more than happy to actually hear your ideas and thoughts. And if you've been here before, you know very well that I'm trying to actually push forward the ideas that are easier to implement as quickly as possible. The 12, 13 actually, I think right now templates were just the beginning. We are pretty sure we're going to have some more. We already have at least another 3 that are coming in the weeks to come.
14 templates, guys.
14, but we're definitely have another 3 coming at this point. So if you have an idea of a template that you want to see there, we're more than happy to actually have it. And let's create actually another subcategory. Let's call it, for example, the evil. Come on, give me some inspiration here.
What? Me?
How called the evildoers? Like to have
villains.
The villains, even better. Villains.
Villains with an A, not with an E. Yes, you're good.
Great. And let's create the subcategory. So, because the villains are actually underneath the people of Pratchettland, you can actually see them here underneath the people of Pratchettland. So, let's go back to our articles. Let's go to our Rincewind article and let's put him underneath a category. And let's give him a weight as well of 100. Let's go back to articles, let's find the luggage. Let's give it also a category of the people of Pratchettland, and let's give it a position of 99, which actually will put it right after Rincewind. Let's see how this looks like. So let's go to view.
There's a cat behind me.
Our worlds.
I'm stuck.
So what we've done so far is essentially created 3 categories, and 2 of them actually we have Rincewind and the luggage here, and we have an article which is actually within the other articles at this point. All articles which are not actually in a category will appear underneath the other articles location. Right, let's go back. Let's put some. Let's go back to our world, and let's go to items. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to actually come here is to discuss a bit the idea of how we can connect articles outside of the context of the actual copy that we write. Every article in this system has some relations with other entities. For example, an item can actually belong to an organization. We don't have an organization already just yet, and we also can actually assign a type to it. These at this point are here to help you out organize your work, but later on we'll also be able to create automated lists of items. So for example, you can say, create a page and show me all the weapons I have, for example. Or when you go to an organization, you can already, for example, see all the people or items or vehicles that are related to this organization. So let's go to, let's create an item. Let's call it, for example, give me a good item from this world.
What kind of item?
Any kind of item. Anything you can think of?
A
cauldron.
Frog pills.
Frog pills. Talk to me about frog pills.
Dried frog pills. Make you hallucinate that you are sane when you are not sane. I think I might need them too.
Definitely. Right. Create the item. And now let's create, for example, an article of type organization. And let's create the witches consortium. I'm going to put it on a type that's going to be an illicit It's more of a religious order, I guess, a religious other. The parent organization is actually an interesting one. The parent organization is here to allow you to create essentially hierarchy between your organizations. It's a good feature that will allow you to create a bit more structure on your world, but also later on we'll actually have it so you can actually create beautiful diagrams that will show essentially the parent and the children organization within your world. And that's what is here for. The sidebar content here, it's an interesting one. Sidebar content appears on the top right of the articles that have a sidebar. Let's give an example here. Let's say logo to go here. And I'll show you how this actually looks like. You see this appears here. So it's a good place to put things like, for example, any heraldry you might have or anything like that. Let's find a witch's logo. Let's search for articles you can actually have. We can reuse. Oh, that looks like a good one. And let's go edit the article. Open. And let's save. And that is a... Oh, I put it as a cover, that's why. I was wondering what I did. Okay, so now we have a cover as well. That's the other thing you can actually do with your articles. But I was actually planning to put it here. So in order to do that, let's check out the images a bit. So in the image gallery, you can actually go and upload an image. We can actually use the image we have already. So this is the widget logo. Sadly, it's a black image on black, so that's not very helpful, but we can still get the ID from here. So I will copy the ID. I will go back to my article for the witch. And I'm gonna go to place logo here. And if you can see here, actually there is, you go to BB codes. There is a BB code here called image ID, image. So let's use this one. And let's go and say that. Here you are. Let's see how this looks.
I've got another question from a Harry-on.
Good.
He says, questions about categories. I've created some and attached my articles to them. When I go to categories and click view content, it opens the article list with all articles and not only the one attached. Is this a known bug?
No.
It's an unknown bug.
So,
this bug needs splatting.
Yes, it does. So, let's see what happens actually here. That's a very interesting find. So, can you repeat? Where did he see all his categories? Sorry.
So, he created categories and attached articles to them.
Yeah.
When he goes to the categories, I'm saying he. You might be a she. I'm sorry, a Harry-on. When a Harry-on goes to the categories and clicks view content, it opens the article list. Sorry, first day already opening tickets. Harry-on, you're awesome. You're finding the buggies.
No, that's good. Yeah.
You're doing good. It opens the article list with all articles and not only the article attached. This is what he says. She says.
I don't
Harry says.
See that here.
He's a he.
Good. So I don't see that here, but I can check it out on her definitely. And if actually it would be better if you go to our either feedback form on the website, or if you go to our Discord and you just leave a comment for that in the bugs channel. That would be really great actually, because that way it won't be actually forgotten. Right. So sorry, we went kind of like really quickly here. We already have an article here for the witch, we have a nice cover, and now we have also here a nice image for the witches consortium, essentially, on the sidebar.
Very Granny Weatherwax. She'd approve.
She does look like Granny Weatherwax, doesn't she? Great! Let's go back to our articles. and your articles list. By the way, this star means that it's featured, by the way, so for some people who asked what this is. Essentially, it's a nice way to easily find out your featured articles when you create them, essentially. What shall we do next?
You've done categories, right?
Yes. Actually,
Timeline!
Before we go to the timeline, actually, let's talk a bit more about the BB codes, because I think there are some of them that are actually interesting in there.
The baby codes!
Right. So let's create a generic article, and let's call it, what shall we call it? Actually, let's create the Augustan Empire article, right? We had to create one. So let's go, I mean, we can do it many ways, but let's start by going to the preview the world, and we mentioned it here. So let's click on the Augustan Empire. Good, and let's put some content in there now. Put some content here.
Content. He, Agitated Empire. Got a capital T at the beginning of that.
I think it's the, and I forgot
think
to
so
mention.
too.
Better?
Beautiful.
Thank you very much, wife. And it's an empire, so it's a geopolitical organization. It's an empire, right?
Yeah.
And we can write a bit more about its history.
So just to mention that the way we're doing this here to show you is by using a pre-existing world, because it just shows you how the tool works and how you can use stuff. But at some point we're going to do a world creation session where we do all this again, but we'll do it with stuff created on the spur in the moment. And the idea of that is that we can show you more how it's kind of provoking thought and provoking building, essentially, which is a little bit what... Yes, that is a handsome kitty. There's also one behind my bum. Yeah, which will show a little bit how we hope that it's going to sort of provoke answers to questions you haven't thought of.
Yeah, that's very true. Good. So I don't actually have a map of the Augustan Empire, but I think we can actually do with one of the maps I have already here, right?
Map, yes.
Okay,
let's use a sub-map.
Let's upload the map. I'll go to my cartography, and I will use one of... Let's use this map. Oh, actually, don't think that's a very big map for... Oh, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna use one of the maps that was created by James. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. Here you are, map.
Ooh, fancy schmancy.
What's that?
Your map.
It's not my map, actually. It was made by one of my favorite members, James. The thing is, I think that this map actually is quite big for what we want to do. So let me actually make this a bit. Sorry guys, 1 second. I will be right behind. Let's give it a try now. And I will display this as a map. to show you exactly how it actually looks like when you use a map. These are not actually maps, they're just images that are made to actually look like maps, and it's a big difference because one of the things we'll be building very soon is essentially a system that will allow you to really create maps and being able, for example, to drop pins on your maps, and by doing that essentially linking other articles or other locations on in your world, so making essentially a bit more of an interactive way of going through the locations of your world. So in a map image, essentially all you can actually do is have a very big image that you can actually see in full zoom, which looks like that essentially.
Oh, it's so big.
It is.
I like the stairs.
Yeah,
It's
actually.
a really pretty map. There's lots of map love on the chat.
I can imagine.
Map love!
Great. So going back to our article, you can go to edit organization here. And one of the other things you can actually do, and I wanted to mention, is that we talked with Bianca the other day, and we've added a new feature which allows you to essentially choose an image from the library already. So if you have uploaded already an image, you can just choose it from here and you can actually use that. Which
Handy.
is, yeah. So for example, let's say that this was another map, we can actually go here and say we want to use the Witches Consortium, and we don't want it to be a map anymore. So if I save this article, go to view, now we actually have the other article, which is
Nice.
quite...
There's lots of excitement for a map maker tool on this.
Map making, I don't think we should be doing, guys. I mean, we can discuss it at some other point, but map making is being done so well by so many other people, which I find that us trying to create a map maker in World Anvil will actually be not a good idea in terms of the fact that they will do it much better. What we will do, though, is that we will actually... I'm sorry, I'm dying. We will... Thank you.
You're welcome.
What we will do is we'll try to integrate with as many map making applications as possible. And we will also, of course, allow you to upload much bigger images from these applications, like, for example, Campaign Cartographer or Fantasy Maps, which are actually right now in development, and many others. That way, by just porting your images in there from those applications that really do it great, you will be able to... There's something extremely funny that I'm missing here.
It just dies of coughing midstream.
Ah, fair enough. Yes, I hope not. Yet you need me, I think.
Get res by holy water!
Yeah.
Fdoo!
Great. So yeah, take these maps, upload them on their website, and then you'll be able to make them interactive in here, and I think that's going to be the most powerful thing to do. If you're looking for map making tools, guys, in the resources channel in Discord, actually we have a huge array of them, and people are always adding more and more of them. So, you know, that can be quite handy if you're looking for any. If you need to buy a new tool and you want to actually, you're wondering which one is going to be more good for your world or actually more easy for you to use, just talk to me and I'll be more than happy to actually give you some guidance on that part. Right, so we continue? Nice. Okay, let's go to Notes. Now, Notes is one of the features that were not used so much so far on the application, but I think is something that I missed and I wanted to discuss with you guys as well if you think it's going to be useful. The idea is that sometimes you have an idea. You are walking down the street, you are on holidays with your wife, and you know you're going through a nice city like Valletta, for example, and you see the fortification museums and you say, that is amazing, for example, I would love to have something like that in my world. You're not ready to write an article, it's just an idea. Notes are there to capture these ideas and you never lose them, because I found, at least in my process, that I have lost so many good ideas because they were just nice ideas that were in my brain until the next idea came, pushed it out of there, and suddenly the idea is gone, never to be seen again. So notes are there to essentially allow you not to do that, not to lose.
Yeah, essentially, so a lot of writers keep a writing notebook, either in digital form or otherwise. And this is a way of doing that which actually is integrated within something that can help you make your world, so you can sort of copy paste things through.
Have everything all together.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? One thing we will be doing very soon, hopefully,
add an image to the note.
is...
Can we add an image to the note?
Not yet, but that's a really good feature. again, put it on the features channel. I will definitely be picking that up. It's very easy to do, and it's going to be a very quick enhancement, and we can definitely do that.
You will make a note of it.
Great. So the other thing we can I really want to do is that soon enough I would like to have a mobile app. Not a mobile app to write your worlds. I find that it's going to be very hard for somebody to write actually a world through a mobile app. But keeping notes for your world, that's another idea altogether, right? I mean, that would be a good place to have it. I mean, a simple app on your phone that you can actually just write your notes and then, or for example, take a photo and then, you know, being seen in the application in World Anvil when you go to write. I think that would be useful. I don't know. I mean, that's just my way of thinking, I guess. So, that is for notes. I mean, notes are very simple to use. You put an idea. So, for example, let's say, I don't know, I'm not Terry Pratchett, I'm not that very smart. Let's say that the note is, we might need a 5th elephant. The stability of the world would greatly improve, right? And you can say, for example, that is an idea that has to do with the world and it has to do with the elephants.
Somebody's mentioned here that notes would be useful, but it would need to be super easy. A mobile app for notes would have them covered. Good.
Excellent. That's good to know. So once you create a note, it actually appears here. I wanted to say something actually that's very important here. The search, if you don't already, of course, you can actually use it to find any of your articles very quickly. So, for example, the Empire will actually show the luggage or anything like that. But you can also do, for example, something like that. And if you click Enter, you go to the search page, you can actually find all the articles that actually have the tags. And, of course, the maps that are TBD at this point, and images that might have a tag. I think that this is a very good way of actually going through your world when you actually start to have a lot of articles in there. There are already people that have over 50 articles. I'm pretty sure that this list is not the best way right now. Just to let you know, that's also something we'll be working on. It's not in this line of features, but I think that it will definitely be on the next line of features, and it will be essentially an advanced version of the articles list that will allow you to filter through the articles. It will allow you to view them by category. It will allow you to essentially search. I mean, you can only you already can search for them really quickly here, like, you know, like frog pills, for example. That's very easy. But we want to do a bit more work on the organization on this page because, you know, that's our main structural element essentially for our worlds. And let's go to the timeline. Now, I will begin by saying that this is the first version of the timelines tool, and it is official that after our patrons actually have voted on, timelines version 0.20 is coming out within the next month, which is great. Timeline allows you to create essentially a historical record of your world. At this point, essentially you can create any event. Let's say, for example, let's say with minus 1000.
Can you search the articles list, by the way?
You can search the article list either by the search on the top bar, or you can search the article list by the search on the top right of the articles list.
What if you only wanted to see species and ethnicities?
Actually, you can on the search. You don't search actually just. Let's go back actually. Yeah. So on the search here, you don't actually search just for titles. You can actually say, for example, species, and it will actually show you all the species because it says about everything. In the future, this will be done even faster because you will be actually able to choose by a drop down and say, show me all the species, for example. But for the time being, actually, it still does it on the search. And for example, you can do it for person as well, or you can do it for organizations to see them like that. You can also say, for example, I want to see all my work in progress. I mean, all of them are work in progress right now, so not much, you know, difference. Sure. But yes. So let's go back to our timeline. Let's create an event which is a minus 1000 years, and let's say that the event type is beginning of an era, and it's actually, for example, the birth of the world.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And we can say, for example, that the importance is it's a milestone.
It's a milestone. It's era changing.
Yes, and we can actually
galactic placenta. Sorry, you married me.
I know. and we can actually mark it as a world event as well. So we'll create this event. You can see it here. Milestone events actually interrupt the timeline to actually just create a bit of a sense of like breaking the timeline into pieces. And you can actually see everything written here and the world that is referring to. I will create another article actually. Let's put it at 500 years and we can make it an event time of the death. And let's call it, for example, the passing of the third king of Aeterna. You can say, for example, after years.
I love it too, Ebonstorm. Ebonstorm and I both love the timeline feature.
Good.
That was something I really struggled with when I was writing, so having something to just lay stuff out in order made me so happy. It doesn't show the minus. At minus 1000.
I will say you why it doesn't show the minus. Give me a second. Let's say that we're actually an important national event. I can say that is world, and it's actually related also to Aeterna.
And cheese.
And cheese, apparently.
It was the Lord of Cheese.
So, the reason it doesn't show the minus anymore is because of a new feature we just released, and that has to do with the way that we can actually define the periods before and after. So if we go to the general settings here of the world, you see here you have an era name and an abbreviation. So this is essentially the difference between the year 0 and after year 0. So let's say, for example, that was before the birth of John, and we can call it before John. That's a very bad idea. Before the birth of John. I'm sorry, guys. After
the birth of
John.
Maybe you shouldn't have called him John.
Yes, probably.
Bernard, maybe.
Let's go for Bernard. So before Bernard and after Bernard. Since we are here, we can actually say also that it's a fairy tale, and it is a medieval fantasy world as well. These are actually all the genres that they will appear on the world page of your world. It will also be used later on for people to search through worlds and find your world. So one of the things we'll be building very soon is essentially a community page that people will be able to search through worlds and find essentially and being inspired by your world. The genre will allow them to essentially search through this list and say, for example, I want to find all fantasy medieval worlds, for example, and we'll give them a list of all the fantasy medieval worlds we have there. These are the social parts of the world, essentially, and will allow you to, if you have a Patreon page, to put a Patreon page there. If you have a Twitter that is specifically for your world, to put it there, and if you have a Twitch channel as well, to put it there. I put Twitter here because some people like to actually post on Twitter their world, and that would be amazing, actually, because it helps us as well to get the word out about World Anvil. And I put Twitch channel here because I actually found out that many people actually like to just go on Twitch, spend 2 or 3 hours with their friends over, and just create worlds. And it's a very nice creative process. And if you remember, actually, as a guild member, you can also create worlds with your friends and have co-authors, and that would be a really nice way of actually, you know, working with this feature, essentially.
Yeah, also a lot of people do what they call parallel writing, which is where they'll open a call and then sit together for an hour and write quietly. It sounds crazy, but it's a way of motivating yourself to really sit down and do something, and you can do something like that on Twitch with Worldbuilding.
That's very
as well.
good, yeah.
Parallel world building.
Yes.
Could you add Discord as well?
Discord as a channel or Discord as a username? Because I already actually talked to the guys at Discord about usernames, and actually there is no way to directly connect to a username. We can actually add a Discord. That's Discord channel. That's for sure. Again, a good feature if we want to do that actually.
Username. Says Aharian.
Username we cannot do, as I said, because the guys on Discord don't actually have a link for a username profile. and that's the reason for that. We talked to them, they said they might actually be considering it, so if they actually do it, of course we will actually do it ourselves. That will be very easy to do. So if we go back to our timeline, we have the birth of the world at 1000 BB and the passing of the third king of Eterna at 500 AB. So that actually will allow you to separate it. As I said before, this feature will be changing, and we'll be talking actually in a bit about how this is going to be changing and how many things we want to add to that, because that's going to be a lot of features being added here. Is there something we actually are missing right now?
You've done timeline?
Yes, actually we have missing something very important. Let's create a new geographic location. Let's call it the Great Caves at the Edge of the World.
Okay. Are we going off piece 2?
Yeah, I think we're going a bit.
We're going off piece, guys.
Here,
We're going rogue in the Discworld universe.
Well, it got actually patch at the world, so I can actually have.
Wait, what is it? A location?
Yes, it's a location.
Unless you want to do Ankh-Morpork.
Let's do Ankh-Morpork afterwards. I have an idea about that.
Sure.
So, there is no parent location because we haven't created actually another. Actually, let's create that. Let's create actually a very important location, which is actually Pratchett World. So, by creating a world location, you're essentially creating a baseline of all the locations in your world to be under. That will be essentially the place that the chances are that your world map will actually be here. So it's a planet. It's called the world, or it's called actually Pratchett World. And it doesn't have a ruler or an owner, and it doesn't have an owner organization because it's the world. But what it does have is a map. So we have created parts of the world, and we have a map of the world here, just to have an idea of how it looks like. Now, if we were to create another location, so create a new geographic location, let's call it, for example, the caves at the edge of the world. We could go here and define that the parent location is actually Pratchett World. It would be better in reality to essentially create a multiple hierarchy of locations, essentially having like a world that has, as we have here, essentially, you know, you have like land masses, or it has essentially all islands and valleys, and within there is to put the caves. But you know, that's actually, we went from the biggest to the smallest kind of size we can actually have, which is actually a copse or a cave. But still, I mean, in theory it is under the world, so we can actually put like that. What we are achieving by doing that is that actually, if we go to the location now, we can actually see the location which is under. And if we go to the Pratchett World now, we can actually have included locations, like the caves of the edge of the world. That is the first part of hierarchy. Of course, that will actually become much better because I'm expecting somewhere at the edge of the world, when the next feature is released, which is the maps. Let's say that is we're here, to have a pin that we can actually click and then go to the location there. And that would make it much easier to actually navigate through, and that's why we want to actually build that feature, because we think it's going to be very useful for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
To actually have. Now, the reason I actually wanted to create this location is actually talk about this section down here. This section down here is the additional information about each article. Locations have notes, secrets, and historical records. Historical records work exactly the same way as we talked about before. Essentially, you create exactly the way as before, but the difference is that let's do that. For example, let's say that in -1001, the world was conceived.
That would take a while.
Let's keep it PG, my dearest.
Okay. Cheeky meow.
Cheeky meow. Yes, that'll be fine. Right. We created the historical information, you can actually see that. So this actually is right underneath the article. But if we go to our timeline, you can actually see the event presented here as well. If you notice something, now this has a related article. So although this location here is good to create many events, if the events themselves are created within an article, it's better to actually create them from within the article, because that way, when we actually view the world and we go to the timeline, we can actually directly link to the articles that they're referring to. Like that, for example, to go to the project world. You see that essentially the whole idea is to create a very interconnected network of articles, and in that way to actually navigate through the world as easy as possible.
Yeah, and to create the world as easily as possible as well. It's for both creation and display.
Yes, of course. So something we should actually check out now. If we go and write the world here,
it's 58, so we might want to call it a day soon.
Actually, we do have some more things to go through, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I kind of lost my train of thought now.
Easier to create things.
I forgot to say.
Things.
Wait, no. We're going back to the project world, and we're talking about secrets. So many people are asking, how can I actually, for example, create an article that people can see, but I want to keep information for myself, and not to be seen by everyone. Secrets are the answer to that. Essentially, let's say that we were creating essentially the project world, and the project world has a big secret. For example, in this case, the secret is that it's a dish, right?
It's a disc.
It's a disc, not a dish. Yeah. It's a disc on top of
4 elephants. On top of the Great Atuin.
How are Atuin? Is like that?
No.
How is it?
Tuin. I think.
Let's say the Great Atuin is like that. Okay, and let's put making the person.
Now remember that we know that from reading the books, but if you are playing in the disc world, you might not necessarily know that.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a very good point, actually. So
they can't see the secret parts on the stream, apparently.
They cannot see?
The secret parts of the stream. It's too low.
Oh! Oh! What happened to the stream?
The stream is stuck.
Sorry, guys. Let me
see. Found a dam. Ooh, it moves again.
Let me see what I can do to fix that.
Up on the to the end.
Okay, something happened here. Let me see what I can do.
The front fell off. I hate it when that happens. There's some fidgeting happening.
How are we doing now?
I think you might be able to see it now. Anybody? Yes, I see it here.
Great. Excellent. So these are actually essentially the secrets of the world. This is another feature that will also be getting quite a big update soon enough as we introduce subscribers to the worlds, and that actually will allow you to essentially define who can see secrets and who cannot.
Yeah.
That would mean that, for example, you might have your followers being able to read the articles, but you might want to have some subscribers, which are the storytellers of your world, for example, or the people who are paying for a subscription to your world, for example, something like that, to see the secrets of the world. And yeah, I think that we should actually stop with the features at this point and actually go later on. Is there any question, guys, you have from things that you've actually find out while you're playing that you want to be answered at this point before we continue?
Can I hide stuff from my co-author? I don't think so.
No. Your
No.
co-author is your co-author. I mean,
He's your buddy. He lives in
actually,
your pants.
wait a minute. I'm not 100% sure. I have to check that, but I think notes are actually personal.
Hey.
So notes might actually be able to be hidden by your co-authors.
Interesting. We'll check that out.
If they are not, they will be.
Okay, there we go.
It's
Good,
the answer
very
to
good.
that. I will put a note to that.
It's going on the paper, guys. This is serious.
But again, the co-authors are a system that I think will be upgraded as well when we get subscribers, and you might be able to get essentially co-authors that are gonna be moderators or editors.
Yeah.
That will actually might have different kind of rights and this
Sure.
kind of sort. Is there a question? Any other question?
No? No? Are we... Any more questions? Hello?
It takes some time. It's fine. Right. Okay. If
If there are
no
more, I'll post them through.
exactly. If there are no other questions, I would like to talk about actually what's happening within the next days.
There was a question about timelines and whether you could have multiple timelines on one thing, but you're going to talk about that right now.
I was about to talk about right now. So the next thing we'll be talking about actually what is coming. There are 3 major features that actually were already planned to come within the next month.
Uh-huh.
The first one is Timelines version 2.0. The second one is Maps. And the third one is Books.
Nice.
Let's start with Timelines. In the Timelines feature, the new one, the version 2.0, actually we're going to have multiple additions being done to the timeline. The first one will be the ability to filter the timeline, so you can actually say, I would like to see only events that have to do with this tag, or I want to actually see only the major events, or I want to see
events or something.
all the political, exactly, so by category or by type essentially, or by size of the event. The second thing that will be happening with timelines is that we're going to have the ability to create essentially parallel timelines, as many as you want. And these timelines can also be synced. So for example, you can have your master timeline will be the timeline of the humans of your world, and then create a timeline for your dwarfs, which is going to be offsetted by 1,000 years, for example, because the dwarfs are more old than the rest of your world actually. And they will have the ability to have their own essentially how do you call that, like the before and after zero, so each timeline will actually have its own different 0 point, if that makes sense. In addition to that, we'll be adding essentially the ability in each timeline entry to add some essential information. A good example would be population. Let's say that you're creating a city and you want to mark down the rise of population in the city throughout the history. So for example, let's say that when you start the city, there are only 12 people in the city, so the population is 12, and then you make a record 500 years afterwards, and if you wanted to, you can actually say, for example, the population is now 5,000. The result of that would be essentially a graph created for you that you can actually use in your articles if you want to have this kind of demographic information for your city. Is there a question there?
Yeah, Harrian asks, will it be possible to link species and ethnicities, and will it be possible for an article to be linked to multiple categories?
It's not able to create an article that is in multiple categories right now. It could be possible. I mean, I don't see any reason not to.
But you can also use hashtags to link things.
Exactly. I was about to say that.
And
that was
for
essentially...
now, that would be the way to do that.
Yes, for sure. But the idea of categories actually is more that you are actually structuring a book. So imagine that you don't have the same content in 2 pages of a book. That was the idea.
Yeah, so you don't create redundancies.
Exactly. So essentially, because you are able also to link very easily from one place to another, it's essentially like creating a chapter of your book and then essentially referring to that chapter.
Yeah, exactly. You can cross-reference, so you don't need to do that.
Yeah. The second question was about species and ethnicities.
Will it be possible to link species and ethnicities? I mean, the same question. You can cross-reference through.
Oh, directly. Actually, I think that you can already link species and ethnicities. Oh, but just a note on ethnicities. An ethnicity from a social psychology point of view doesn't have to be specifically designed only for one species. I mean, in our world, yes, we actually have only humans. But if you have the ethnicity, for example, from the people of the high mountains, this doesn't mean that these people of the high mountains are just humans, right? They can be, for example, elves and humans and dwarves that live together
Exactly, and have the same
in the high
ethnicity.
mountains, and they have the same culture, and they have the same beliefs, and they have the same, essentially, religious cultures, for example. That will actually make an ethnicity. So, back to the timelines. And one of the other features where timelines is going to have, as I said before, is the ability to create timelines which are also secret. So you can actually have the secret history of your world. You can have essentially the ability to have the secret timeline of your Thieves Guild, or what actually happened in the world compared to what people understand.
Sure, secret
actually.
histories.
The secret history, exactly. So that will actually be a whole redone of the system. Will be done very... I think actually it's the next major feature we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's coming really, really quickly. The next thing is maps. You've asked them, we give them to you. The idea is that you will be able to upload big images of your worlds, and then you'll be able to drop pins on those locations in your world wherever you want. And once you drop a pin, you can actually connect this pin with an article, which this can be an organization, or sorry, it can be a location, or it can be a landmark, or it can be a settlement, for example. And that will allow you to create a more interactive way of actually navigating through your worlds. Maps themselves, as with images, which we haven't shown, and I should show at this point.
Someone says, to cover the gaps between ethnicity and species, would it be possible to get race or nationality options?
Yes. Although nationalities can be covered by organizations, I think that's not a bad idea. It's a very good idea. Let's put it as a feature and we can actually discuss it a bit further. And so, I wanted to actually show you something I forgot to. Images can be added into the article's copy as we did with the extra sidebar content. So for example, if you wanted to add, let's say, what was the name of this image we had here? Yeah. If you wanted to add, for example, the Witches Consortium logo in an article, we can go to RinSuite, for example, and we can say that he is also a proud member of the Witches Consortium. And then I can go here and I say that I want to put an image with the ID of 209 and close like that. If I save this article now, you can actually have the image in the article, which is quite nice if you want to actually add a bit more of an extra artwork, if you have any, for your articles as well. And of course it's linked to the Witches Consortium as we discussed it before, essentially. Now, going back to the major features, we talk about maps. The third one is books. We found out that as worlds become bigger, the table of contents of the worlds will become essentially a very big nested tree of locations and organizations, for example. So consider that you might have a kingdom, but this kingdom can have duchies, and the duchies can have counties, and the counties can have baronies, and within the barony you might have, for example, a little town, and within the town you might have a shop. We're about like 10 levels down. That would be not really easy to actually see for somebody who are going through the table of contents. For that, we're creating books. Books will be a way for you to create essentially a super category that once you click in there, you can actually go and create articles as normal, but they will have their own table of contents. That way, for example, you can have, for example, a book for the Kingdom of Aeterna. By doing that, that means that what it used to be 10 levels down now will now be like 6 levels down, which is a bit more readable, and you can also use it like that. In addition to that, I think that books are kind of a preparation for another features that we want to actually create, which is essentially the plots feature. The plots features is more or less your ability to create adventures, role-playing adventures for your world into World Anvil. And essentially the idea is that by creating a book, you're creating a new adventure that people can actually get and see separately from everything else in your world. I think I don't have anything else for today.
H. Kerbin says, can parallel timelines converge, for instance, to track character timelines as parties form and as fellowships dissolve?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea to actually have references. Essentially, when you create a timeline entry, that would be a good way of saying that this entry refers to another entry on another timeline, possibly, which essentially, in many ways, create a merge of the two timelines because you can actually be able to jump from one timeline to the other.
Nice. Secondhand Samurai raised the excellent point that you can use the timeline fork to take advantage of the write yourself into the corner problem, where you create several versions of an event and then decide which one you want and go for that one.
Good point as well. Yeah,
great way of doing that.
Definitely,
Genius idea. I mean, it doesn't matter what we made it for. If that's how you want to use it, genius.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good
Friggin'
idea.
Genius.
And I guess also secret timelines will help with that as well, because you can actually have a main timeline which is visible and the others be secret until you choose which one you want to use, essentially.
When they add race, you can use that to various species. Yeah. There's a burgeoning discussion about races versus species versus subspecies versus ethnicities.
Yes.
And Aharian said, "Oh no, I'm using the tools wrongly." But I just wanted to say to anyone who feels like, "Oh no, I'm using the tools wrongly," A, there's no wrong, and B, we're still in beta, so we're still trying to make it clear which of the templates is supposed to do what. So if that is the case, we need to go back and do a little bit more work on clarifying that. And it's really, really useful to know.
Yeah.
So you did good.
Just since we're actually on this matter of ethnicities and species
and races.
Yes. So first of all, I didn't put race into the in World Anvil because I think it's one of the most convoluted expressions.
It's a bit generic.
It's actually also very wrong because the way we're using it most of the time is actually not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
A species, the idea behind World Anvil species is essentially it's any genetic diversification of the tree of life can be a species. So we're talking about genetics here. We're talking about essentially the way it looks, the way it acts, the way it works, and the way it came to be in terms of genetics. Ethnicities are essentially a way of creating and describing a bunch of people belonging to one or multiple species, but with a common belief system and a common essentially understanding of the world.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing, and ethnicities actually it's a very interesting enough, but ethnicities can actually go beyond borders. For example, you don't create an organization called the Kingdom of Aeterna that has an ethnicity. The Kingdom of Aeterna is an organization that is ruled by a king and several other lords, and they have some lands, which actually are the locations essentially that this kingdom actually is controlling, because you can actually put organizations controlling locations, and each location can actually be related with different ethnicities that actually live there.
Yeah.
And that's how I wanted to manage it. I know that people might have problems with the idea, for example, of how do I actually port my D&D races into species or ethnicities. The truth of the matter is that probably most of the RPG races, are species, they're not ethnicities. Ethnicities is a different way of actually approaching the question of how do we actually talk about the people of a location. Because, you know what? Let's say that you create a city. A major city, like Baldur's Gate or anything like that. People tend to say that this is a city called Baldur's Gate and it has 70% humans and 20% dwarves and 10% elves. But it doesn't talk about the people. It doesn't talk about essentially the differences between the city. And I think there are so many beautiful dynamics that are lost when you actually say, yeah, the elves of this city, for example, feel like that. But it's like saying that all the white males of this world think the same way, right? It's extremely generic to say that everybody that is actually an elf or a human or a dwarf thinks or believes about, like dwarves the same way. So yes, in Tolkien's land, for example, we say yes. For example, elves hate the dwarves, dwarves hate the elves, dwarves are stubbly and hate horses, but that's a gross misunderstanding. For example, you might have an ethnicity of dwarves or an ethnicity, for example, of people from the plains that can also be dwarves that love horses, and these dwarves will definitely like horses. They won't actually be against horses. That was the idea behind the ethnicity.
Yeah. H. Kerben says species: wolf, dog, fox. Race: German Shepherd, Dachshund, Husky. Ethnicity: Highland Dogmen of the Bone Marrow Stan.
That sounds about right. Yes. Actually, wait, he said race? That is actually the second part?
Race, German Shepherd.
Actually, that would be an ancestry. Because genetically speaking, a species is something that can actually create viable offspring.
Yeah.
So a shepherd, like a German shepherd, in theory, can go with a Chihuahua, and like it would be a horrible thing to happen, but it can happen. Genetically speaking,
Yeah.
it can happen.
That's where you get the Labradoodles from.
Yes. What you have with ancestries, though, is that actually we can have a species that's called dog, and you can have an ancestry that is a Labrador, and an ancestry which is actually a Chihuahua, for example. So yeah, you can actually see that essentially the race is kind of the ancestry.
Subspecies.
Yeah. Well, yes, you can do both. Right now, you can actually create subspecies, and you can actually also create ancestries. So that way to handle that. Any other questions?
Do we have other questions? We're having a lengthy debate about the fact that all meat is dragon food.
Excellent. I don't know how to respond to that. All I will say at the end of this is, first of all, guys, thank you very much. It was really nice to have you here. We are hoping to do that once a week, possibly.
Yeah.
I promise that I will be more organized next time. I will have a better understanding of what I'm supposed to be saying, and I will try to... No, I won't even try to get Janet to be more relaxed.
Control my wife.
Yeah, that impossible. Just leave that.
Not a thing.
But what we will try to do essentially from next week onwards is actually just sit down, say hello, talk about the things that we've done already.
Yeah.
The bugs that we fixed, the new features that will actually be released, and the things that were released already. And of course, if any debates or questions are being raised, then that will be the place here to discuss them and actually get answers to these questions. If there is no other questions, there are no other questions, guys. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. If you are not already in the beta, we are actually trying to send them the invitations as quickly as possible. Janet is about 8 days back right now, but she's trying as much as she can to send as many invitations as is possible.
So many passwords, guys.
Yes, there are many passwords. Too many passwords. And yeah, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you for all your nice feedback.
Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.